Good evening and a happy new year from the crew on Mansfields Money Sense. Hopefully you had a good rest. Better than my mate Wayne, who I got hold of at the beginning of the new year to say happy new year to him. And I said, hopefully it's going to be a good one. And he said, well, it started off badly. And I said, why, what's wrong? He said, I've got to go back to East London for an operation. I said, oh, jeeps, what's wrong with you? He said, they're taking out half my right lung. And I said, that's terrible. He said, yeah, they're just making place for my liver after this Christmas. Let's hope for a profitable 2011. I thought we would start this year off with an overview of what we can expect, but get a head start at the same time. You see, the Christian New Year has only been going for a few days, but the Jewish New Year is already about 4 months old. So that's why I asked David Shapiro from Sasfin to join us. You've got a head start on us now. Yeah. How's your New Year been so far from a business point of view?
From our New Year, if you go back to September, it's been a pretty good first 3 months. The problem is that I'm not quite sure that the next 3 months are going to keep up to the same pace.
So as soon as the Christians start a new year, then it all goes
pear-shaped. Now we take profits. All the yids are going to be taking profits now.
What is your outlook for this year, David?
Look, Jeremy, we had a good 2009. You know, if you go back to 2009, that's when the market started to turn around. We've had a good 2010, and I think we're going to have a very good 2011 as well. I think the turnaround, the world economy is starting to gather a little bit of momentum. No one feels it, and of course it's not going to be linear. It's just not going to be a straight line. There are going to be a lot of hassles. And as you know already, we've started to worry about Europe, and that's just taking a bit of an edge. But I'm not that concerned about it because we ended off on a very strong note, and I think the market's just digesting the kind of run we had into December. But overall, the wild card is going to be America. In other words, America is going to come back. And when America comes back, when consumers there start spending, then the global economy gets traction and starts to really starts to move up.
I want to come back to America in a moment, but I want to go back to Europe. Investec just 2 days ago saying that Spain is the biggest problem that could hit the rand.
Yeah.
Are those hassles going to go away, or are we going to be dogged by? Is the media hyping Spain, then Portugal, then wherever?
Yeah, it's like you're the rich dad or something, and you've got a family that are in overdraft, and eventually you've got to come to their assistance. And I think that's what's happening in Europe. If you look at Europe, you've got Germany, which is very strong. Germany went on an austerity program 10 years ago and is now in very good shape. They've also been helped by a weakening euro. Exports there are very strong. So Germany is in incredibly good shape. But the peripheral nations, Ireland, Portugal, Spain, Greece, are structurally in bad shape. You know, in Spain and Ireland, it was mainly that the banks lend too much to finance construction, housing. Portugal and Greece are economies which have lost their competitive edge. But both of them are indebted, and both Greece and Portugal, I think, are badly indebted. Spain and Ireland as well, the banks are indebted. But in all cases, the European Central Bank has to come to their assistance.
Is it manageable?
Over time, yeah. It's going to take a long time because they've got to embark on austerity programs. What is the austerity program? It's the same as if you're in overdraft. If you're in overdraft, you can't go out and buy another motor car, you can't go out and buy another house, etc. You have to pay down the overdraft. You have to pay down your loans, and the only way you can pay down that is by working a little harder, getting a little more income to pay it down. And that's what those nations have to do. They have to re-look at their economies. And you know what happened in France when France embarked on this austerity program and wanted to increase the retirement age from 60 to 62, the whole nation went into strike.
Exactly.
And I mean, they started to forget about it. Why? Because when you retire at France at 60, you get a pension that was probably equivalent to your last salary. So, you know, it's a wonderful socialistic country. That has to change. And Europe has to change.
I just have difficulty seeing anybody in Greece actually working, to be honest. Nobody does.
Jimmy, yeah, we've always had, we've got a lot of Greeks who work for us, wonderful people, and they'd always tell you the story about the supermarket up the road. There were two tills, one for the receiver and one to send back the money to Greece. With great respect to the Greeks, and I hope I'm not insulting them, but there were always those stories, and that was a big problem in Greece. Nobody paid tax. No one paid it. It's like a lot of people in South Africa as well. They always moan about the potholes, etc., but they always try and avoid tax. No one wants to pay the tax to give the money to the government to fix the potholes.
Look, I think it's a worldwide problem there. Let's go back to America, because that's where we're going to see change, if change is going to come. How long do you reckon it's going to take before the American consumer comes out of his or her shell and starts spending again?
Starting to happen now in a slow way. The big issue is still the job market, which Bernanke himself said is going to take 5 years to normalize. And then, of course, the housing market. There's still a huge excess of houses. With cheap credit, what happens? A lot of people went and bought, a lot of developers built houses in places like Las Vegas, in Florida, all the second and third homes. All of that stock is still around there and has to be absorbed. And of course, for America, all their equity is measured in their house. And if their house price starts to fall, they feel worse, they feel bad, and they don't go out and spend. Overall as well, jobs are still a problem. But what's happening now is companies are flush with cash. As soon as they get confidence, and that confidence is starting to emerge, as soon as they feel confidence, and economic growth is only confidence. When you feel good, or you feel that you're going to make money in the future, that's when you start becoming expansionary and expanding. And I think that's what we're going to see in America now. The corporates are in very good shape. They've gone through 2 or 3 years of re-engineering their companies, getting rid of excess costs, refocusing them. They've got cash and they're ready to expand. And as soon as they start becoming a little more confident, they will start to create jobs. So jobs will take a little bit of time to catch up. But from an American point of view, I think that's going to be, the American consumer is starting to come back. He saved for 2 or 3 years. Their saving rate has gone from 0 to +6, +7% now. And I think you'll start to see them. They get bored after a while. You get bored of austerity. You get bored of saving. I think we're going to start to see a little more coming through this year.
Your emails, welcome. There's the email address. If you've got any questions for David, then you can send them through to us. The Rand. We've discussed Europe, we've discussed America very briefly. The Rand, am I right in saying it's only really going to start moving once things happen in America?
Yes.
So, in other words, this year, bugger all's going to happen.
Well, I don't think so. I think that as confidence comes back into the United States, and look, I'm not talking about a roaring economy in the United States. Remember, we're coming off a low base. So this is not boom times, but it's not as bad as it was a year or 2 years ago. It's starting to improve, a little bit more momentum coming through. And that's all you need, to lift the economy. So as America starts to improve, more and more prospects, America will have better investment prospects, which will start to draw dollars back into America for investment purposes. It'll also start to push interest rates up, which Bernanke doesn't really want. But you will start to see interest rates creeping up slowly. He's trying to keep them down. And the reason he's keeping them down is that he wants to keep mortgage rates down. Not the short end of the market. The short end, the overdraft market, that's 0. But he wants to keep the long end, because the long end, that's 10-year money, 15-year money, 30-year money. He wants to keep that down, because as long as that's down, it will encourage people to go out and buy houses. If those rates start to go up, you won't go and buy a house. So he wants to keep that through his quantitative easing. Remember, we've also got the tax packages, the delay. Bush introduced some tax cuts 10 years ago, which were due to expire. Those have now been extended. So in effect, you've got another almost 600 billion or 580 odd billion coming back into the US economy. They would have gone in taxes. That's going to also stimulate the US economy together with his quantitative easing. So all of that money, I think, is going to start lifting. Money will flow back into the United States, which I think will detract from the appeal of the Rand and some of the emerging markets.
So it's not just this whole thing about the American consumer starting to spend that's going to then increase rates and that. It's also about investing back into the country to pull the money back in, suck it out of the emerging markets.
As it starts to look more appealing. You know, when I look at the stock market at the moment, and I'm doing quite a bit of investigation in foreign markets now, it's quite attractive in that because there have been concessions here, so more and more people can take money out, or you can take more and more money out of that. So you look at the overseas markets, they're very attractive. In fact, the multiples, dividend yields in some of the big names that we know are a lot more attractive than our market. So you begin to say, hold on a sec, where should I be? And I'm even starting to look at investing in the American markets. Admittedly, I'll talk about that a little later because there's some very attractive areas in which you can start investing in. But I was looking at General Electric. Now, that's a huge company. I think it even owns, it owns NBC, I think, General Electric. Yeah, it's CNBC, yeah. Isn't it?
I don't know.
You don't know. I think it's the ultimate owner.
I don't
of
have a
CNBC.
boss anymore.
Yeah,
So.
no. It's the ultimate owner. But even that is starting to look attractive because it's had 2 shocking years. But if you start to project where it should be in the next year, it's on a 10 multiple, which is very low for a company of 10 PE, which is on a very low multiple for a company like General Electric. So you say, hold on a sec, this is worth a punt. If America is turning around, GE could be a very attractive stock to